Session 3, Excel for Professional Analysis and Decision Support. You're overcomplicating it. Excel isn't hard. It only feels hard when you use it like a calculator instead of a thinking tool. Most people approach Excel by memorizing formulas, copying shortcuts, and hoping everything works once the numbers are in place. When it doesn't, they assume Excel is the problem. It isn't. The missing piece is about to make sense, confidence. Not confidence that comes from knowing hundreds of functions, but confidence that comes from understanding how professionals actually use Excel to think through problems. Professionals don't start with formulas. They start with questions. They stop asking, "What formula do I need?" and start asking, "What question am I answering?" That shift changes everything. Even today, Excel drives critical decisions in most US businesses, finance, operations, healthcare, retail, and beyond. Even teams with advanced tools still rely on Excel because it's flexible, transparent, and fast for decision-making. When Excel skills stop at syntax, progress stalls. When those skills reach logic and intent, momentum builds. Excel stops feeling fragile and starts feeling powerful. You begin to understand not just how calculations work, but why they matter. That's the shift we're building here, from mechanical usage to professional thinking. Core Excel functions for analysts. Professional analysts don't use hundreds of functions. They master a small set and use them well. The goal isn't to impress with complexity, it's to solve problems clearly and reliably. The most important Excel functions all do one thing. They help you ask better questions of your data. Functions like if, sumifs, countifs, and averageifs don't just calculate numbers, they apply logic. They let you say, only count this when these conditions are true, or only average these values when they meet specific rules. That ability to apply conditions is what turns raw data into analysis. Text and date functions help you control time. They allow you to group data by month, quarter, or year and make comparisons that actually reflect how the business operates. Logical functions help you control rules, defining what qualifies and what doesn't. Aggregation functions help you control scale, turning thousands of rows into meaningful summaries. Each category serves a purpose, and professionals know when to use each one. Beginners often focus on remembering syntax. They search for formulas, copy examples, and hope the result looks right. Professionals focus on structure first. They organize the data. They define the question. Then they apply functions with intent. This is why copying formulas rarely works. You're copying someone else's thinking, not solving your own problem. Once you understand what a function is doing conceptually, the formula itself becomes obvious. And here's the quiet advantage. When you understand the logic behind your work, you can explain it. You can defend it. You can adjust it when conditions change. If you can say, this metric changes because this condition changes, you're no longer just an Excel user. You're thinking and working like an analyst. Pivot tables for KPI analysis. Pivot tables are not advanced. They're misunderstood. Most people treat them like magic, click a few buttons, drag some fields, and hope the right numbers appear. When the results look wrong, they blame the tool instead of the thinking behind it. Professionals treat pivot tables very differently. They use them like lenses. A pivot table is designed to answer one question well: how does this metric change across categories? That focus is exactly why pivot tables are so powerful for KPI analysis. A US operations team once tracked performance using dozens of formulas spread across multiple worksheets. Reports took hours to update. Errors were common, and no one fully trusted the numbers. One analyst rebuilt the entire report using pivot tables. The data didn't change. The metrics didn't change. The only thing that changed was the approach. Now, results are updated instantly. Managers could slice performance by region, time period, and product with a few clicks. Meetings changed immediately. Instead of arguing about whose numbers were correct, teams started discussing what actions to take. That's the real power shift. Pivot tables don't replace thinking. They accelerate it. They remove mechanical effort so attention can move to interpretation and decision-making. When your data is clean and structured properly, pivot tables make patterns obvious. Trends surface quickly. Outliers stand out. Questions get answered faster. This is why professionals rely on pivot tables for weekly and monthly reporting. Not because they're flashy or impressive, but because they're reliable. They reduce error, support exploration, and adapt easily as new data arrives. Used correctly, pivot tables turn Excel into a dynamic analysis tool rather than a fragile collection of formulas. Advanced lookups and dynamic arrays. Lookups scare people. They shouldn't. At their core, lookups answer a simple question: find this value over there. That's it. Everything else is just mechanics. Functions like XLOOKUP and dynamic arrays don't change the purpose of lookups, they make that purpose clearer and more reliable. Flexible logic adapts as the data changes. That flexibility is what professionals rely on. Think about the last time you copied a formula down hundreds or even thousands of rows. Did it feel efficient? Or fragile, like one extra row or a missing value could break everything? Most people have experienced that quiet anxiety of wondering whether every cell is still correct. Dynamic arrays remove that fragility. One formula. One source of truth. Automatic expansion. No copying. No guessing. No silent errors hiding in the background. This matters because professionals don't build Excel files for today only. They build them to survive change. New data arrives. Rows are added. Categories shift. Questions evolve. A professional workbook absorbs those changes without falling apart. Advanced lookups support that resilience by keeping logic centralized and transparent. When something changes, you update the logic once, not hundreds of times. Advanced lookups aren't about complexity or showing off technical skill. They're about stability and trust. If a workbook breaks every time the data updates, it's not professional, it's risky. This is the point where Excel stops feeling stressful and starts feeling dependable. Instead of fighting your spreadsheets, you begin to trust them. And that trust is what turns Excel into a serious analytical tool. Professional Excel reporting. Professional Excel reports do three things well. First, they answer the question that triggered the analysis. Second, they explain the result clearly enough that the reader doesn't have to interpret it on their own. Third, they invite the next action by making it obvious what should happen next. When any of these pieces are missing, reports fail even if the numbers are technically correct. A US finance team once shared a report with 15 tabs. Every metric was included. Every calculation was correct. And almost no one read it. Executives opened the file, felt overwhelmed, and moved on. An analyst later redesigned the report with a different mindset. One summary page. Clear KPIs at the top. Simple visuals that highlighted trends instead of clutter. Supporting details were still there, but pushed into the background. Executives finally engaged, not because the math changed, but because the story did. Professional reports respect the reader's time and attention. They highlight what matters most and hide what doesn't. They guide the eye instead of forcing exploration. This is where Excel stops being a spreadsheet and becomes a decision support tool. The goal is not to prove how much work you did. The goal is to help someone else make a better decision faster. Good reporting isn't about showing everything you calculated or every assumption you tested. It's about showing exactly what the audience needs to see to understand the situation and act with confidence. That ability to filter, frame, and focus is what separates analysts from spreadsheet experts. Analysts design reports for decisions. Spreadsheet experts design reports for themselves. Closing summary plus practical next steps. To tie this together, Excel isn't about formulas. It's about logic. Core functions apply rules, pivot tables reveal patterns, and modern Excel tools create stability instead of stress. The operations team's breakthrough didn't come from added complexity, it came from clarity. 2 actions matter now. Stop memorizing formulas and start explaining, out loud, what a formula is meant to do before writing it. Then rebuild one small report using pivot tables and clean logic, focusing on the decision it supports. This isn't about learning Excel. It's about learning how to think with data.